Hey everyone, and welcome to our first episode of the Explorer Zone. My name is Joel, and I'm usually a designer here at the Science Mill, but today I get to be your host. Each week we'll be coming to you live from the Science Mill to share some of our favorite parts of the museum, along with activities you and your family can do at home. We've created an online Explorer Zone at sciencemill.org where you can interact with playing games, you can watch movies, you can discover more activities and DIY projects, and learn more about STEM careers. So make sure you check that out. We have over 50 science and technology exhibits to choose from here at the Science Mill, but today I'd like to pick one, our Aquaponics Greenhouse. So what is aquaponics, you might be asking? Well, basically it's a way to grow plants and raise animals using water. No dirt needed. Half the system is raising animals such as fish in water, and the other half is raising plants in water. But when you combine the two, you create a system that benefits from both the plants and the fish. It's a win-win for both. The Science Mill's very own plant and animal technician, Lisa, will show us how the Science Mill uses our aquaponics system. Are you ready? Let's go check it out. Hey Lisa, do you think you could tell our friends here how aquaponics works?
So we have this nice little graphic here to sort of break that down for you guys. So we got to start at the top. We feed the fish. That's the only input that's going to be going into the system. We got to give them their food. And then the fish do what they do best. They eat that food and then they poop. So then after they poop, there's going to be invisible microbes. There's bacteria in the water that will actually convert that fish waste into nutrients that the plants are then able to absorb and use to help grow until they mature. So then once they're mature, we're able to harvest them and eat that food, and then the plants themselves will clean the water by removing those sort of nutrients. Several different types of aquaponics systems actually going on in here. We have 7 individual systems. So our first aquaponics system that we have, it's called deep water culture. So we use these styrofoam floating rafts to hold these plants in place. We start the plants out as little seeds in a peat plug that's going to be a sort of inert material. And once the plant sprouts and gets a couple leaves, we're able to put them in the holes in the styrofoam raft, and then the plant roots themselves go straight through and just free float in the water below. So that helps them to grow a lot bigger, especially with the leafy greens such as lettuces and kale. Our other systems that we have this media bed over here. So this media bed is filled with hydrocorn, which is a baked clay. But you can use any sort of uneven surface materials such as pea pebbles or lava rock or anything like that. But this sort of hydroponics is really good for growing root veggies. You can grow carrots and radishes a lot better. But it allows the plants to really anchor themselves in there and hold themselves upright. So a lot of larger plants, like this root beer plant, grows very well in this style. And then the uneven surface area allows all that beneficial bacteria that I talked about earlier to grow on the surface and kind of turns it into a giant biological filter that helps filter the water and keep it clean for the fish. So this media bed is actually attached to this tilapia tank here, where we have several different tilapia, and then we have one little fancy Bashir fish in there. But then we have another type of aquaponics going on. So these are our vertical columns, our hanging columns. So this type of aquaponics is really great if you're kind of tight on space, but you still want to grow a lot of plants. You can grow them more upwards, and just about everything does really well in this sort of a system here. So we've got our koi fish swimming down below in this system, so they help provide the nutrients for these hanging columns and the floating rafts that you saw earlier. And then we have a little bit of a fancier system. We have our living walls. that were planted up here. So these plants are just planted in a landscape fabric that's attached to a flat back, and the roots themselves grow into the landscape fabric. The water is pumped up to the top, drips down and soaks the fabric, and then is collected by that gutter in the bottom and funnels back down into this tank. So we have a bunch of catfish in this tank that has helped providing the nutrients needed for this living wall to really grow. So then on this tank as well, we actually have a monitoring system. So you can see the sensors up above the tank there, and then we have a digital readout over here to the left. So that is telling us what the TDS is, what the pH is, what the water temperature and the air temperature of that system is, and that gives us sort of a general overview of what all of the different systems we have going on here are going to be experiencing. So then we also have our mister up here at the top, so that helps provide extra humidity in this area for the plants. Most plants really like some high humidity. There are exceptions such as cactuses and aloes, but all of the plants that we have in here really like a high humidity. They grow a lot better whenever it's above 60% humidity. So we have that to kind of help boost it in these hot, dry days. Aquaponics has its own set of pros and cons, but one of the big pros for aquaponics is that it actually reuses water. So instead of just kind of constantly dumping water on a field of plants and having it soak in the ground and evaporate, we have that fish tank there. So all you have to do is top off the fish tank every now and then, and it definitely helps use a lot less water that way. It also provides sort of a duality for growing and getting a sort of a yield afterwards. So instead of just growing crops or just growing fish, you can grow both at the same time in the same area, and you should get a higher yield whenever it comes time to sell.
So, what kind of plants are we growing here?
We have several different types of plants going on. We did a lot of lettuces this winter. We have a few left over. We also have a lot of mint. We have several different types of mint. We've got spearmint over here, which is doing our best, but we also have chocolate mint and ginger mint, to name a couple others. And then we've just started growing our basil. Our basil does really, really well in the summertime, so that's going to be very exciting. So how about we head up to the Learning Lab now, where Emily is going to be doing an activity for us.
Welcome to the Learning Lab. My name is Emily and I'm a STEM educator here at the museum, and today we are going to be making a hydroponic system that you can complete at your house using household materials. So I know in the greenhouse we talked a lot about aquaponics, but let's talk about the difference between hydroponics and aquaponics. So hydroponics is a little bit different. So hydroponics only requires two things. So all it needs for a plant to grow healthy and full life is nutrients and water. So you can make a whole hydroponic system that only uses nutrients and water and no soil. So the way that we're gonna make that today is by using a 2-liter bottle. You're gonna need something that will act as a wick. So this can be a piece of scrap cloth, it could be a piece of a t-shirt, a sock, whatever you can kind of find lying around that is water absorbent. The next thing that you're gonna need is a kind of growing media. So basically what that means is we're not using soil, but we still need something to support our plant as it grows. So some household materials that you could use are Legos or small marbles. Shredded paper also works as well. Just something that will give the plant's roots something to kind of grab onto as it starts to grow in our system. The next thing that you're gonna need is about a cup of water. You're also gonna need a little bit of liquid fertilizer. So for hydroponic and aquaponic systems, there are specialized fertilizers that you can buy for aquatic systems, but in our case, you can use just any sort of household liquid plant food or fertilizer. The next thing that you'll need is a type of seed or a very young plant. Today we're using purple basil seeds, but again, whatever kind of seeds you have laying around, feel free to give it a try. The next thing that we are going to be using are a type of tape that is opaque. So it can be a roll of painter's tape, it can be duct tape, it can also be a paper bag, anything that will kind of block light from the bottom of our hydroponic system. And the very last thing that you'll need is a pair of nice sharp scissors. So let's get down to it. So the first thing that we're going to be using is this 2-liter bottle. So when looking at your 2-liter bottle, what we're going to be doing first is cutting 1/4 off of it. So we're going to be cutting right where the bottle kind of starts to bottleneck and taper into kind of a funnel. What you should do is you should ask an adult first to start a little section where you can put a pair of scissors through. So have an adult make a little incision where you can then start kind of cutting through. All right, awesome. So now we have our top and our bottom piece. What we're going to be doing is with this top piece, you're going to flip it over and then you're going to settle it like that. Awesome. So this part right here is where your plant and where your wick is going to rest. So the next thing that we're going to do is grab the material that you're going to be using to make your wick. So again, I've got a piece of scrap material here. What you'll do is you will just roll it up into a tight little kind of straw shape, like so. Once you've got that, should look a little bit like that. What you're going to be doing is you're then going to be inserting it right through the cap of the bottle. So half of it will rest at the bottom and half of it can kind of rest on that top part there. So you can adjust your bottle. Yeah, you can adjust your bottle. You can move your bottle up and down if the ratios aren't perfect, or you can cut your cloth once you got it to make it shorter if it's a little bit too long. So I think that's about good for ours. It should look just like that. The next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be placing our growing media into the hydroponic system. So again, it can be anything that's sturdy that you have laying around. Today we are going to use some Legos. So what I'm going to do is place the Legos around the wick, like so. Break them apart if they are clumped together, like that. And basically you just want to make a place where the plant has support. So as it starts to grow, you don't want it to flop over. You want it to be able to stand upright and for the roots to be able to grow down towards the water. So make sure that they're not too heavy, whether you're using marbles or Legos or paper, and that it's not super tightly packed. You still want to leave some space for it to grow. So that's about good when it comes to Legos. Leave some space. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we are going to add in our seeds or our small plant. We're working with seeds today. Again, I have these purple basil seeds. They are very, very tiny. So if you're using small seeds, make sure that they are directly touching the wick. So for anything that you put in here, so even if it's a small plant, even if it's seeds bigger than this, make sure that they're touching the wick. So for these, I'm gonna put them right on top of our wick here. So you can kind of see that we've got some small little basil seeds, and I'm gonna place them right on top of our wick. That way they're touching the wick, which absorbs the water and the nutrients from the bottom. All right, so once we've got our wick and our seeds in there, what we're gonna do now is we are going to grab our water that we're gonna be putting in the bottom here and our fertilizer. So again, you can use any sort of household liquid fertilizer. You only need a few drops, 1, 2, 3, like that. And again, use the directions that are on your fertilizer that you're using. They'll be a lot more specific. So once you've got the fertilizer in there, kind of swish it around, make sure it's all mixed together, and then pull off the top pull off the top of your hydroponic system, pour in your water and fertilizer to the bottom there. I think I lost a seed. That's okay, there's still one in there. So once you've got your water and your fertilizer, you can then put the top of your system back in there. Kind of make sure that it's nice and settled, and make sure that your water is touching that wick there. It doesn't need to go all the way to the top. You can kind of adjust it to make sure that there's enough in there for it to continually kind of wick the water from the top to the bottom. And if you look really closely, you can actually see the water starting to kind of travel up the wick. Very cool. Okay, so our very last step now is, in order to prevent algae growth, we need to cover the water. So to prevent that from happening, we're gonna try to cover the bottom here. And that's where our different types of tape or our paper bags come in. So what you can do is find a type of tape, like painter's tape if you want. That works pretty well. And we're gonna cover the bottom portion where the water is resting. What's fun about this is you can totally decorate your painter's tape however you want. You can draw little designs on it. You can get real fancy. Another thing that you can do is, if you kind of want to watch your water, if you don't want to totally hide it behind tape, you can just use a paper bag. That way you can take it on and off really easily, and you don't have to worry about peeling tape off. That's one way to do it. All right, so I'm just going to cover the back portion here like this. All right, and once you have got your tape at the bottom, you are good to go. So to keep a close eye on your hydroponic system. You should start seeing root growth and plant growth in just a few weeks. And make sure, if you do complete this experiment at home, please share it on our Facebook page. You can comment on our post, or you can send us pictures of your hydroponic systems to programs@sciencemill.org. We would love to see your experiments, and then hopefully share them and show other people what you've been making as well.
Hey guys, my name's Carl, your career connector. Remember some of the career questions we asked earlier? Well, let's talk about them. Some careers where people might want to work with plants and animals include horticulture and aquaculture. These careers study how best to grow healthy plants and fish in environmentally friendly ways. A few others in aquaponics are chemists and agricultural microbiology. Chemists might study the ammonia or nitrate levels in the water to research how to grow thicker lettuce or bigger tilapia. Microbiologists will research how the microbes respond to the water flow or amount of the sunlight to ensure a healthy system. Engineers can also be involved in aquaponics. We need engineers to help design the pumps and the motors and move water from one part of the system to the other. Even the shape of the tanks and other components can have an effect on how well the system runs. It's up to engineers to identify these challenges and come up with solutions.
As we can see, aquaponics and hydroponic systems can be created in systems large and small. If you would like to upgrade your gardening at home, head over to sciencemill.org and check out our online Explorer Zone to find out detailed instructions on how you can make your very own aquaponic system. With some household items and tools, you could be growing your very own herb or vegetable garden indoors. The Explorer Zone also has our Career Connection Guide, home activities you can download, and online games you can play like virtual greenhouse bingo. All of these episodes will be available in the Explorer Zone, so don't worry if you miss a live stream. If you have any questions you want answered by our Science Mill educators, just drop us a comment below or email us at programs@sciencemill.org. Check back next Tuesday at 11 a.m. for the next episode of the Explorer Zone. We'll see you then.